issues are being discussed, men are very relevant, and that's why we talk about gender and not just women's issues alone. I have had the opportunity to look at this report from telephone survey of about 750, to be exact, 739 respondents. And the way in which it is presented in very simple form for easy understanding. And in my view, if it is widely disseminated, it will be relevant not only for Makueni, but for the whole country, and even perhaps Africa, because a lot of these findings, in their seeming contradiction, and in their, some of them you will say they resonate with other research, what we think, what we have learned. Others contradict what we believe. And I think that's the richness of the findings in terms of they're coming up with what is real in the community. And therefore, the findings give us room to ask ourselves, as has been pointed out by both speakers from the county level, what do you do when these issues, persist and they are not the correct positions that we should have? We have worked as a county government with Twaweza since 2019, and we are grateful for this partnership because in a way you can speak about many things in an anecdotal fashion, but when you discuss things on the basis of research, the discussion is more grounded, it's richer, and you have findings normally which you can use to do policy, to do programs, to do relevant projects. And that is why I think, knowing some of who has been invited here, people push the gender agenda, among other things. I think it's important, as you discuss throughout the day this report, you'll be able to together decide on what each organization can take forward in terms of implementation. So the citizens are speaking through this research, and the researchers, as well as the NGOs, the governments, and so on, it's now up to them to decide what is it that can be done on the basis of what citizens think, whether we think it's wrong or it is right from our perspectives. In our county, we have tried, in terms of development work, to really focus on both genders, because in any community, in any society, in any country, under any government, where, for example, the female gender is shoved to the periphery, development obviously is very impacted negatively. And I think, for me, one of the critical realizations of our communities, our governments, is if you do not harness the strength and the power of the woman, we are putting the men aside a bit. If you don't do that, you suffer as a community, as a country, because you have less development. And I'm sure most communities, governments and so on, would like to see significant development happening in those spaces. And so this continuous work to interrogate what is happening in this sphere is important, because it will help in terms of the overall development that can happen in our counties, in our national government, our continent, and so on. From the presentation, which I found halfway, but I had also the advantage of reading the report, there was explanation of things that are troubling. For example, the main household breadwinner in Makueni is more often male than female. I think one has also to contextualize in terms of the various categories of the society, elite society, urban society, rural society. Because in a lot of the rural places, men tend to be absentee in their families, and as a consequence, when you look at the agriculture, who is doing more work in the agriculture, you find that the woman is doing more work in agriculture, energy, trying to look for energy. Here, of course, it is said in terms of household work, in terms of health provision, in terms of care of the children. But I think sometimes, particularly in rural society, when we examine who is doing the agriculture, who is doing the back-breaking work, there is a tendency for the women to be doing that. But the men, and even some of the women will say it's the men who do the work. So this is a contradiction, and actually there are many contradictions in this area. Many households are women-headed, the single mothers. I think sometimes we are given a percentage of about 30% or slightly more. So if to begin with, that 30% also is the breadwinner, is doing the work, then you have that other category of women who actually do most of the agriculture, do most of the mama mboga, do hawking and all that. I remember I did a poem for one of the International Women's Day in Kikamba, and I was a bit hard on the men because I was telling them that we are absent in the life, in the family, in the nurturing of our children. We are absent, and I used a very powerful image because it was a woman who was complaining, but later the man also replied in the poem, and the woman was saying, "My husband is," in Kikamba we call it itialio ya mundu, meaning he's a remnant. He's like when you eat food and you don't finish the food that is left. And I remember one guy, he was so angry with me. He said, "How can you call us that? How can you demean us that? We are the men. What's wrong with you?" So I think that idea of who really is the breadwinner is an idea to be interrogated further. Of course, when it's formal employment, men tend to be in formal employment more than the women. But most of the people in these rural counties are not necessarily in, the major thing is really that agriculture, the small-scale trading, and so on and so forth. Men in Makueni are more likely than women to have the final decision on all matters, though joint decisions are common. Yes. When the men go to towns to work, and many of them go to towns to work, and it's not easy, even in those towns, the women are left home. And a lot of the times, it's the women who are making the decisions. They may consult on the men and ask them that there is this decision to be made. What do you think? But there is also, as I have discovered, as I have grown, the power of women to make decisions without appearing to be making decisions, and to drag their men into those decisions and get the men to believe they are the ones who are making those decisions. I have a relative who used to fight with her husband. And, because she would say that this is what we need to do. And the man felt very aggrieved that the woman was telling him what to decide. So, this relative of mine said, sometimes I offer good decisions, but your brother resists them. What should I do? So we had a discussion. And then subsequently, because also my relative used to have one beer or two, then she had a different approach. She would tell him, by the way, when you came home last night, you told me these beautiful things that we should do. So this relative of mine, because he had come from some bar, he did not remember well whether he had said that or not. But since it was accredited to him, he said, yes, you see now, that's a good decision. I came up with that decision and it's a good one, let's do it. But of course it had come from my other relative. And they stopped fighting. Because according to, and I think that's the thing about even when the decisions, because the decisions perhaps have to come from where somebody is more intimate with the issues. Because if the decisions come from somebody who is not very intimate, like what's happening with the children, what's happening with like education, most of the people who go to the education, the siku ya wazazi, are the women. And they get that information. Even when there is extension, the women go. Even when there are many things, the women are going. So if the decisions don't come from the person who probably has more knowledge, then there can be an issue. Now, some of the findings have been pointed out in the presentation that they are troubling, like if 90% of the residents believe that all men should be respected by women, and that's the patriarchy Janet talked about, Mheshimiwa. And you see, after my father passed on, and I'm firstborn, my mother believes that I am now in the shoes of my father, that I should be able to tell her what to do. And yet she's older than me, she's more experienced than me. When we sit and I'm asking for advice, I get very quality advice. But there's that thinking that it is the men who should be respected and the men must lead in the family. So there are these attitudes which one can say we must fight against because they are not necessarily attitudes that help us. I'm also shocked by some of what was presented, that 6 out of 10 residents of Makueni, men and women alike, say that in rape cases, it's an important fact to look at how the woman is dressing. Did the woman participate? Did the woman participate? Last night, I was on a call with a young mentee who is a student but was doing attachment, not in Makueni. And sometimes, you know, she carries food at work, and she shares with whoever. Because of not having a lot of money, she prefers to cook and then carry food instead of buying it in the cafeteria. So she asked people, you know, if you don't have lunch, we can have lunch together. I've carried some food from home. And one day, there was this gentleman, senior, where she's doing attachment, who he looked like he didn't have lunch. So she said, could you, we can share my lunch. So a few days ago, and they did, as she does with everybody who says yes. Because according to her, it's giving, it's being generous, it's a good thing to do, it's a godly thing to do. So a few days ago, there was some party, and in that party, this old man, this senior man, came to sit near her and started being all over her. And she was very stressed, you know, and she said, stop this, I'm going to report you. She was struck by the fact that a lot of the people were there, although they had some drinks, didn't come to her help. And then this man went ahead of her to report that she was looking after him. She was looking after him because she had invited him for lunch, so that when she goes to report, she's told, you are the aggressor. So this idea that you have to ask, how did the woman contribute to rape, is a very archaic idea. It is really a very negative idea, because a crime is a crime. If somebody is part of a crime, they should be treated as a criminal, and there can be no support of rape from anybody. That is not possible. So that is a troubling idea, that, you know, people do believe that a woman can contribute to rape, like she can have a short dress or whatever it is, or, you know, that is not good. Then, of course, it's also, the report also says that women, in terms of violence, are more at risk in their homes. We did research, and the DG, I don't know that DG is not here, we did research which showed how even children were being abused by their relatives at home, in their homes. They were being abused in the schools by teachers that they could name, and they were being abused in the faith space. And of course, one can concentrate on physical abuse, but some of the abuse that lingers long in somebody's life is emotional abuse, is psychological abuse. And sometimes when we see some of these episodes of like, you know, women killing their children, committing suicide and all that kind of stuff, sometimes it's, I think, part of accumulated emotional, physical abuse, including, of course, economic abuse, when people don't have the wherewithal to sustain family lives. So, of course, in the country, at the macro level, because this is micro level work, which is, in my view, of a lot of value, because if one is able to deal with these issues one by one through, I will not say the things that we have done because my colleagues have said so. I don't want to repeat. But if that happens, I think we will go a notch higher in terms of addressing these gender attitudes, norms which are not correct. And yet we are told that the girl child is privileged. We are doing a lot of work on the girl child. So if it's true, we are doing significant work on the girl child, why do we find things like this that still are negative? Why isn't there more growth in terms of gender equality and so on? There are main issues which will support what is described here in terms of more gender equality at the basic level, whether it's the home level, it is the village level, it is, whatever basic level. Up to now, our National Assembly is illegal because we don't have the gender parity that is required, the 2/3 rule. That has not been, we are now going into another election that has not been corrected. So that's a problem. That's a problem. In the Constitution, there are very beautiful provisions about property ownership by both male and female, succession as well, especially matters of land. But those things have stayed on the paper of the Constitution. In terms of implementation, we have a long way to go. Even things like AGPO, where we say 30% should go to women, youth, persons with disability, other disadvantaged people, I don't, from some of the evidence available, I'm not sure across the country that is something that has been achieved. And sometimes even men will use women as proxy, so that they have companies and the women are proxy. They are not the real owners of the companies and therefore the recipients of that economy. But I will also concede that we have made some progress, like where counties, people look at these issues, including even issues of gender-sensitive budgeting, representation, so that in all organs in a county, in the country, like in our county, we try so that in all bodies that are formed, at least the constitutional provisions in terms of how many, people should be in these committees, we try to do that. Even in Makueni, there is increasingly this norm that if a governor is a man, the deputy should be a woman. If a woman is a governor, that is something that is kind of gelling, although it's not in the Constitution, but it is good. It's very, very, very good practice in my view. So let me not talk too much because you are to discuss. But please try to disseminate this as much as possible to reach like the schools, to reach like in the way in which is a profound work, but rendered in simple language, which is people can understand. Try to make it, to disseminate it as much as possible. And even, I don't write articles these days, but a good article of these findings would really help to get also debate, and I can see the cameras also to make, and radio, to make this very, very important debate. Thank you, welcome to Makueni, and all the best. And I will